Psychology. Psychology of the strange. The strange. Psychology of the strange.
You're listening to Psychology of the Strange, a podcast exploring the psychology behind fear, folklore, the uncanny, and the unexplained. This show is brought to you by the Darkcast Network. Welcome to the dark side. Before the internet ever called it backrooms, I walked into it by accident. I was young and my grandfather was sick, so I was spending a lot of time at the hospital, the kind that never really sleeps. There were always sounds, always movement, always some reminder that the building was alive. Except that day, there wasn't. Parts of the hospital were under construction, so to get from one wing to another, you had to go underground. The regular hallways disappeared and turned into something else. Long tunnels painted different colors, marked with numbers instead of names. It felt less like a place for people and more like a system. I started walking, and the lines on the wall went from blue to yellow to green. Every turn looked right, every sign made sense, and then suddenly nothing did. At some point, I realized I had gotten turned around, or maybe the hallway had. The tunnel opened into a wing I had never seen before. All the lights were on, the doors were open, the beds were made, but there wasn't a single person there. No nurses, no patients, no voices, not even the familiar hospital sounds that tell you where you are. Just silence, the kind that feels too big for the space it's in. I stood there completely still, thinking, am I allowed to be here? Did I miss something? Where did everybody go? And then I felt it. Not fear exactly, but the sense that I wasn't supposed to be seeing this place at all. Like I had wandered behind the scenes of reality and found something unfinished. For a moment, I couldn't remember which way I had come from. That was the worst part. Not the emptiness, not the silence. The fact that the building no longer gave me directions. And there was no one that could point me in the right direction. I walked back the way I thought I had come, counting turns, watching colors, listening to my own footsteps just to prove I was still there, and hoping to maybe run into somebody, anybody. When I finally reached the normal part of the hospital again, the noises, the people, the life, I didn't tell anyone what had happened. I didn't have the language for it back then, but now I do. Years later, when I saw images of the back rooms, the endless hallways, fluorescent lights, familiar spaces with no people, that same feeling came back. The same tightening in my chest, the same quiet dread. Because the back rooms aren't just a story about a place. They're a story about a moment. The moment a familiar space stops telling you what it's for. I'm Tara Peralt, a doctoral student at the University of South Florida, and that's what we're talking about. Not monsters, not jump scares, but what happens to the mind when the world becomes a maze and you realize how easy it is to get lost inside of it. It doesn't happen all at once. There's no falling through the floor, no tearing sound, no dramatic moment where the world cracks open. You're just somewhere else. 1 second, you're moving through a space you didn't think about: an office hallway, a storage corridor, a place designed to be passed through, not remembered. And the next, that passing through never ends. The carpet is yellow, not bright, not cheerful, the kind of yellow that's been there too long. The lights hum overhead, not loudly, not quietly either, just enough that when you stop walking, you realize the sound has been following you the whole time. You turn a corner, the hallway continues. Another corner, the hallway continues. You tell yourself this is normal. Buildings repeat themselves. Offices are modular. Cubicles are copied and pasted into existence. But something feels wrong. Not dangerous, just off. There are no windows, no clocks, no doors with labels. The walls are covered in the same faded pattern. Something geometric, something meant to look neutral, inoffensive, and forgettable. And that's when you realize you can't remember how long you've been here. You check your phone. No signal, no bars. The screen lights your face for a moment, then feels suddenly useless, like a prop from another life. You start walking faster, not running. Running would feel like an overreaction, like admitting fear before it's earned, but faster and purposeful. Left, right, straight. The space refuses to change. Every turn leads to more of the same. Hallways that don't feel copied so much as continued, as if the building is not repeating itself, but stretching. You begin to notice details you missed before. The carpet squishes slightly underfoot, like it's holding moisture it shouldn't. The air smells faintly of dust and something electrical. The lights flicker, not dramatically, just enough to remind you they could go out. You call out. Your voice sounds wrong here. Too loud. The sound travels farther than it should. It seems to bend around corners, but comes back thinner. No response. You laugh softly because that's what people do when they want to prove they're still in control. This is stupid, you tell the walls. The walls do not disagree. At some point, hunger appears. Not sharply, not urgently, just a distant signal. Thirst follows. Time becomes difficult to track. You stop counting steps because the numbers start to feel meaningless. You find a room. Not an exit, just a room that opens off the hallway. It's empty. No furniture, no papers, no signs of use. But the room feels recent, like someone could have been here not long ago. Like if you waited long enough, something might return. You don't sit down. You keep moving because something has changed. Not in the space, in you. Your thoughts start looping, simple ones. Did I already turn here? Was this wall always this color? Why does this feel familiar? You're struck by a strange realization. You have been in places like this before. Not exactly this, but close. An empty school hallway after hours, an office late at night, a mall during a weekday morning when everything is open but no one is there. Places meant for people, without people. Your chest tightens, not with panic, but with something quieter, something heavier. Loneliness without an object. You start to feel watched, not because you see anything, but because you don't. Every corner feels like it could reveal something, but it never does. You keep preparing for an encounter that refuses to arrive. Your nervous system stays on standby. Minutes stretch, or hours, or longer. At some point, you stop calling out, not because you've given up, but because it feels like noise doesn't belong here. This place isn't hostile, it's indifferent. You wonder briefly if this is a punishment, or a purgatory, or maybe a dream. But dreams usually do something. This place just is. You press your hand against the wall. The wallpaper peels slightly under your fingers. It's warm, but that's not comforting. You imagine what it would be like to stay, to accept the sameness, to stop searching for exits, to let the hallways become your entire world. The thought scares you more than monsters ever could, because it feels possible. You don't know when the fear starts to change. It's not sharp anymore, not adrenaline. It's dull, settled, like the low hum of the lights. Your sense of self begins to thin around the edges. Who were you before this? Where were you going? What mattered? The answers feel distant, optional. You keep walking, and walking, and walking, until the question isn't about how do I get out, but was I ever supposed to? And that's the moment when you understand. The horror of this place isn't that you might die here. It's that nothing is stopping you from existing here forever. So why do stories like this get under our skin? Why does a yellow hallway feel more disturbing than a monster with teeth? The answer is that the backrooms don't scare you by adding threat. They scare you by removing structure. And the mind does not tolerate structure loss very well. The backrooms are the ultimate liminal space, a threshold with no destination. Liminal spaces are transitional by design. They exist to move us from one place to another, not to be destinations by themselves. Hallways are meant to be passed through. Waiting rooms are meant to be temporary. Stairwells are meant to connect levels. And lobbies are meant to orient us before we move on. Even offices after hours become liminal once their purpose has been stripped away. They're still lit, still intact, but no longer functioning as social spaces. These environments are unfinished. They don't provide narrative closure, emotional anchors, or a reason to stay. When we remain in them for too long, or encounter them when they are empty, silent, or out of context, they begin to feel wrong. Not dangerous exactly, but unmoored, as if we've paused the world between scenes and stepped into a space that was never meant to hold us. So you expect three things from space: orientation, the where am I, purpose, why am I here, and trajectory, where does this go? The backrooms deny all three. There's no arrival point, no exit, no narrative payoff. And without narrative, the edges start to fray. So I've talked about this before. Your brain is a prediction machine. It constantly asks, what should happen next? In most environments, the brain is rewarded for its predictions. You walk down a hallway and expect a door, and you do. You enter a room and anticipate furniture, purpose, evidence of use, and it's there. You follow signs, arrows, or numbers and trust they will lead you somewhere meaningful. These small, constant confirmations reinforce your sense that the world is coherent and reliable. Each correct prediction strengthens your feeling of orientation and control. This allows you to move through space without anxiety. But when those rewards disappear, when the hallways stretch endlessly and the rooms are empty and the signs lead nowhere, your brain doesn't just get confused. It begins to interpret the environment itself as a problem that needs solving. And when it can't be solved, unease quietly takes its place. The back rooms break that loop. Every prediction fails, but quietly. Nothing jumps out, nothing resolves. This creates a state of persistent prediction error, where the brain interprets as something being wrong, even if it can't say what. That's why the fear feels low grade but constant, not panic, just dread. One of the most unsettling elements of the back room is that nothing is foreign. This isn't a cave, it's not outer space, it's not a haunted castle, it's an office. There's carpet and fluorescent lights and drop ceilings. These are normally safe cues until they aren't. And this creates a contextual betrayal. So your brain again thinks, I recognize this, I should be safe. But your nervous system disagrees. That mismatch creates unease more powerful than overt danger because you don't know which system to trust. In horror movies, you get fear and a target. Maybe it's a monster, a killer, or even just a presence. The back rooms remove that object entirely. What's left is just free-floating anxiety, the kind that has no clear source, no object, and no obvious way to resolve itself. This is the same type of anxiety seen in generalized anxiety, where the body stays on edge without knowing why. In derealization, where the world feels distant or artificial. In existential panic, where meaning itself feels unstable. And even in certain trauma responses, where the nervous system remains activated long after the danger has passed. When fear has nothing to attach to, it doesn't disappear, it spreads. It lingers in the background, low and constant, keeping the mind in a state of quiet vigilance. The backrooms mimic this state perfectly. Nothing is happening, yet everything feels unreal, and the body reacts as if it's waiting for something it can't name. There's nothing to fight, there's nothing to flee, nothing to resolve. Your nervous system stays activated without an outlet. And prolonged activation without resolution leads to exhaustion, disassociation, and cognitive narrowing, which brings us to derealization and depersonalization. People often describe the backrooms as feeling dreamlike or fake. That's not accidental. Derealization occurs when the world feels unreal, flat, or artificial. Depersonalization occurs when you feel distant or unreal. Both derealization and depersonalization can emerge when the environment loses the cues that normally keep us grounded in reality. When spaces lack emotional anchors, objects, people, or routines that tell us who we are and why we're there, the mind begins to drift. When time cues disappear with no clocks, sunlight, or rhythm to mark the passage of moments, our sense of continuity weakens. When social feedback is absent, there is no one to mirror our existence back to us. No confirmation that we're seen, heard, or located in our shared world. And when meaning collapses, when the environment no longer explains itself, the brain responds by pulling away, creating distance between the self and reality as a form of protection. In these conditions, the world starts to feel unreal, and the self can feel strangely hollow, as if it's fading at the edges. The backrooms simulate all of this, and that can feel destabilizing. You don't just feel lost, you feel unconnected. Humans are not built to be alone indefinitely. Even when we're physically alone, we're rarely truly alone. We're surrounded by social residue, the subtle traces of other people that tell us that we still exist in a shared world. Messages left behind, distant sounds of activity, objects that have clearly been used recently, lights left on, doors slightly open. All of these signals that others are nearby or were here not long ago. This residue keeps our social brain calm. It reassures us that we're still part of a larger human system. When that residue disappears, when spaces feel scrubbed of presence and paused in time, something deeper is triggered. The absence isn't just quiet, it's unnatural. The backroom strips that away. They imply people, but never deliver them. This triggers a subtle social alarm. Something has gone wrong. Your brain starts asking questions it doesn't like. Where did everyone go? Was there an event? Am I late? Did I miss something? This isn't just fear, it's an existential threat. And here's something else that's interesting. Many backrooms adaptations add entities, creatures lurking in the hallways, but psychologically, that reduces the fear. And you might wonder why. Monsters actually make horror easier for the brain to tolerate because they restore structure to the story. They give the fear a cause, something specific that explains why the environment is dangerous. They provide agency, an entity that is doing something rather than a space that simply exists. They create narrative direction, giving the mind a sense of movement towards confrontation, escape, or resolution. And they offer something to blame, which allows the brain to organize its fear around a single target instead of letting it spread everywhere. When a monster appears, the world makes sense again, even if it's terrifying. The back rooms remove that comfort entirely, leaving you alone in a space where nothing is wrong in a way you can name. And that lack of structure is precisely what makes it so disturbing. The original backrooms are scarier because there is no antagonist. The environment itself is the threat, not through aggression, but through indifference. This is why the backrooms resonate so strongly right now. They mirror modern psychological conditions that many people are already living inside of every day. Burnout feels like moving through spaces without progress, expending energy without reaching anything meaningful. Bureaucratic stagnation turns life into a maze of forms, rules, and processes that never quite resolve. Endless productivity without payoff creates the sense of constant motion with no arrival point, where effort is demanded but meaning is withheld. And perhaps most unsettling of all is the feeling of being trapped in systems you didn't design and can't exit. Workplaces, institutions, expectations, and structures that continue humming along regardless of whether they serve you. The back rooms capture this perfectly. Familiar, functional, and endlessly operational, yet completely indifferent to the human inside of them. The horror isn't being chased, it's being stuck. After jump scare horror, your body releases tension. After backrooms horror, it doesn't, because nothing ended. The story didn't close. The hallway didn't resolve. The question didn't get answered. Your brain hates unfinished loops. If the backrooms feel like they linger after this episode ends, that's not an accident. Your brain is still waiting for resolution. The hallway never ended. The door never appeared. The story never closed. And that discomfort is the point. The backrooms don't haunt you because they're scary. They haunt you because they expose something true. The mind is built on meaning, and when meaning disappears, we feel it immediately in our bodies. We're not afraid of being alone in a hallway. We're afraid of being alone in a system that doesn't respond to us, of walking and realizing there's no signal coming back to tell us we're going the right way. And maybe that's why the back rooms feel so modern. They aren't about being lost in space. They're about being lost in structure, about moving through routines, institutions, and roles that look familiar, but no longer explain themselves. The quiet dread you feel isn't telling you to be afraid. It's telling you to pay attention. Because the moment a space or a life stops giving you feedback, that's not just discomfort. That's a signal that something needs to change. And maybe that's the real exit.